Hello and welcome to today's episode of Tween Talk Live. I am glad you're here with me today. Today we're talking about big emotions and how to help your tween deal with those big emotions. And if you have had a tween for any length of time, maybe they're just coming into the tween years, and maybe the thing that made you recognize that, oh, I'm not dealing with a kid anymore. Now we're moving into past just the big kid stage and into these tween years that will lead to the teen years, and you're going, wow, where did these big emotions come from? And I don't know if I can handle this crazy roller coaster. If that is the case, you are in the right place. We're going to talk about how to deal with some of those things so that it's going to be better for you, it's going to be better for your tween, and get rid of some of that conflict. Not all of the conflict, I can't make that promise, but we will see how we can deal with our own emotions and how we're dealing with those, and then we can help our tween. I'm Marina Gabor. For those of you that don't know me, welcome. I am the founder of Tween Talk Live and also the Life Skills Club. I've been a homeschooling mom for over 10 years. So we're just in the final stretch. And I have 3 daughters, so we have been through these tween years, and I'm happy to say we're on the other side of those, and the work that went into those tween years, because I'm not going to lie, it is work. 100% it is work. However, the relationships that you can nurture with your kids through those years is worth it on the other side. It's worth it during, but it's going to pay dividends on the other side when they're in their teens and into adulthood. So let's just dive in and get started and ask you, how do you feel about it when all of a sudden your tween has this big emotional outburst and you're like, where did that even come from? And why are they attacking me? Because it does feel like a personal attack, even though it's probably not. And what's happening is they have all of these big feelings and they don't know what to do with them. And part of it is they don't know what to call it. It's kind of like, this just flashed to my mind. I don't know if your kids ever watched Curious George. My kids used to watch Curious George. I used to watch Curious George with them. There was this great episode where Curious George, he was afraid of the dark. So there he is in the dark and he just can't sleep, and everything looks like something scary in his room in the shadows of the night. And then he flips the light on and he sees, oh, it's only a coat over the rack or whatever it is. I can't remember. But all that to say is the scary thing was not so scary in the light. So if we expose some of these emotions for what they are, name them, it takes away the scariness, and then you can deal with what they are. Just like Curious George turned on the light, and it's like, oh, it's only my coat over there. Turn the light off. It's not so scary because it's the coat and you know how to deal with the coat. The coat is just a coat, right? So way back when I was growing up, and I guess it wasn't, it was long enough ago. Anyway, when I was growing up, we didn't really express ourselves in our household. It was pretty calm on the surface, and if you had some sort of emotional outburst, it was really frowned upon. So you learned to just kind of stuff things down, which I'm not recommending and is not healthy. All that to say is, when I had my kids, I thought, I am going to figure out this whole emotional intelligence thing. How can we express our emotions and save relationships? Because being able to express your emotions is part of being in relationship. So for me, that meant I had to figure out, what am I actually feeling, and realize that it was okay to feel those feelings, even if it was a bad feeling. Even if it was like a negative emotion, even if I was angry, it was okay to be angry. It was okay to be disgusted or frustrated or sad or scared or upset. All of those things, it was okay, but it was not okay to take those out on somebody else. It was not okay to hurt myself or somebody else or something else. There were ways that I could deal with those feelings, but first I had to recognize what they were. And so that is the very first thing when we're thinking about helping our tweens through their big emotions. First, we need to step back and look at, okay, how do I feel when I am feeling angry? What is happening in my body? Does my face flush? Do I feel hot? Do I feel like what feelings are happening physically when I start getting angry? And when you know that, then you can help your tween recognize that too. And you can say, hey, it looks like you're angry about this. And you slap a label on it. As soon as you put a label on it, then you go, oh, this is what anger is. Okay. Oh, you look like you're really sad today. Because you know, and you've internalized what sad feels like, what sad might look like. And then you recognize it in your tween, and you can help them process that feeling for themselves. Now, the second thing, so once you've identified, then you can start to label. You can start to say to them, hey, this is like, it looks like you're angry. And they might not know they're angry. They don't know what to call it. But then they see that, oh, the next time I get that feeling, oh, it looks like you're angry. Okay, so every time I get this feeling, that's what anger is. And when I'm angry, what does that mean? What do I do about it? What triggers that anger? Then you can start dealing with that. And then you can come alongside your tween and say, oh, so what happened to make you feel like this? They might not know. What was the story? Oh, somebody did something. Oh, so that made you feel angry because you wanted this and this happened instead. Yeah, I can see how that would make you angry. And then we can take it further from there and decide what to do with that anger. Now, sometimes I would just suggest for feelings like being angry and so on, when it is really easy to lash out. And I remember a book I was reading talking about emotional types of things, and they called it kicking the cat. Now, obviously, we're not going to go kick the cat, but what happens is people are angry at something, and then they end up kicking the cat. It's not the cat's fault. The cat did nothing. But it just ends up being getting the brunt of their anger. So we don't want to have this kick the cat scenario. So when things are getting heated between you and your tween, and maybe they are lashing out at you, it looks like they're angry at you. It might be that you're the cat, in that you're not actually the problem, but you're just getting the brunt of that anger. So you might suggest, hey, why don't you step aside for a bit, go in your room, do something else, just kind of relax, unwind, and then let's talk about it and see if we can solve it, figure it out. And giving that space, because what happens in your brain when you are angry and you are overwhelmed by this feeling is there's no logic. You can't think about things. So you need to calm down a bit, and then you can talk about it. But if you tell your tween to calm down, that's not going to be helpful. Sometimes I know when I recognized in my daughters that they were upset about something, they didn't quite know how to process it, and they didn't want to talk about it because they didn't know what to say about it. And that would make me feel helpless, and they're not responsible for how I feel about stuff. But then I thought, well, what if I just give them a hug? Like, it seems so counterintuitive. There they are raging, and you just have to kind of lock your heart up, like to protect yourself so that you can just let them process and be there and co-regulate, help them regulate that feeling. And then I'd say, can I give you a hug? And they would let me give them a hug. And they were sort of startled, like, oh, here I thought you were going to yell because I have this big emotion. So they were expecting a big emotion. So if you instead bring it down and say, can I give you a hug? And they might just stand there and let you give them a hug. And you will feel the pressure, the intensity, everything just kind of like going down. And then when they move away, let it go. And then at another time, after the fact, just see if you can talk through that thing when the emotions are less intense. Sometimes when you are in that situation, another thing to think about, I can't remember where I heard this story analogy. Maybe it was like in a negotiation book, which sounds kind of strange to be talking about when we're talking about emotions. But it was very interesting that generally you can't have, well, there's a coin. It's got two sides. And one side is this outrage, and the other side is the calm happiness. And so when your tween is having this big emotion, if you take the side of the coin that is also like in conflict with, they have nothing else to do but to like continue that conflict. But if instead you say, come alongside them and you are on their side and you're like, wow, that sounds really awful. And you keep going with them on that, then how can they rail against you when you're on their side? So you've given them the side of the coin that means that you're on the same side rather than opposing them. So that sometimes deflates some of that initial anger. They feel like you're on their side, and then you can give them a hug too. But to loop back to where we started about big feelings, helping your tween regulate their big feelings, and helping them label them, it means that you need to get in touch with your feelings, which sounds all, ooh, get in touch with your feelings. It just means start being aware of how you're feeling. And then you can start, as you're watching shows together and stuff, you can start saying, hey, that guy looks really angry there. And then they'll start recognizing, oh, anger looks like that. Oh, that character looks really sad. Wow, he was super upset. And deliberately use emotional language to describe things. And point out, oh, man, he seems really disappointed. And so on. And as you point them out, then they start to recognize them. And then as they're having feelings, you can also say, hey, wow, I know I'd be super disappointed if that happened to me. Are you feeling disappointed? And maybe they are, maybe they aren't. They don't have to feel the same as you might have. But we start labeling. And then once we label, then we can say, it's okay to be disappointed. Like, settle into that. And being disappointed it's okay. But also we can lean into, wow, you look like you had a great day. You look really happy. Do you want to tell me about it? So you can go both sides of that emotional coin. Usually we think of big emotions as all of these negative things, but it's just processing life. And we label it and we own it. We say, this is how we're feeling, and then we can do something about it. I hope that this has been helpful as you're thinking about helping your tween process their big feelings without a big fight. And again, you can do that without a big fight. Label them, come alongside them. And the more they learn to regulate those emotions, the less tension there will be between the two of you. Until next time, keep talking with your tween, and I hope you have a fantastic